morning, all of you. We will continue with Mother's Day, page number 51. All right, so just a little before that particular place, and so we have seen that Mrs. Fitzgerald she comes back just to see that how things are going. You need to remember that Mrs. Fitzgerald has Mrs. Annie Pearson's spirit in her, and Mrs. Annie Pearson's is now having Mrs. Fitzgerald's spirit in her, and that is why now she is bold and dominating. And here she is teaching the family members of Mrs. Annie Pearson a lesson. All right, and when Mrs. Fitzgerald with Mrs. Annie Pearson's spirit, she comes back and she sees that all her family members they are so miserable and they are sad, and Doris is crying. So she tells Mrs. Fitzgerald that now we need to change again because I can't see them like this. Though Mrs. Annie Pearson with Mrs. Fitzgerald's spirit, she says that no, I think it would be better if they have an hour or two more of this treatment, and then it will be better. But Mrs. Fitzgerald with Mrs. Annie Pearson's spirit, she is adamant and she's saying that no, now this is enough, and let's again switch back our spirits. And so both of them they join hands, and again they stare at each other and they chant a mantra, and now they are back to themselves. That now Mrs. Annie Pearson's spirit is in her body only, and Mrs. Fitzgerald's spirit is in her body. Okay, and so Mrs. Fitzgerald tells Mrs. Annie Pearson that now you don't go soft on them again. Now don't be soft on them, otherwise it will all be wasted. And so Mrs. Pearson she says that okay, I will try not to be very soft on them. And it was all because Mrs. Annie Pearson she was so soft and she loved her family so, and she did not like to scold them much, and we could say that she was the one who spoiled them. And they also never took her into consideration, no respect, no appreciation. And that is why obviously the whole thing happened. And so now Mrs. Fitzgerald said that obviously they have not had as much long as I wanted them to have, and then obviously it would have made it certain. But Mrs. Pearson says, okay, I'm sure that now they'll do better. And though she says, but I don't know how to explain it to them. And Mrs. Fitzgerald, she says, no, you don't start explaining or neither apologizing, because you don't have to. And even if you do, then what will happen? That again we'll come back to square one. And then she tells Mrs. Annie Pearson that you listen to me, you only admitted that you have spoiled them, and that they don't appreciate you. And so no apologies, no explanation, and if you do, then we'll be back to square one. And then so she says, okay, listen dear, I'm simply warning you, just give them a look, a tone, sometimes a voice, a harsh look, and if you do that, then obviously it will work. And then she says, okay, I think we can test it now also. So Mrs. Pearson says that okay, how we can do that? So she says, okay, what is that you'd like them to do that they don't do? Stop at home for one. So she says, okay, you tell me, what do you want them to do today that normally they don't do? What do you want, that they should stay at home today? And so Mrs. Pearson is like, yes, and also help me with supper. And so Mrs. Fitzgerald says, obviously, anything you like them to do, and anything else you like them to do that you enjoy, and whether they enjoy or not. So she asks that is there anything else that you want them to do, and something that that you enjoy but they don't enjoy. And so do you want anything to be done? So she says that yes, I like a nice game of rummy. But she says that but this does not happen often, and it happens only at Christmas. Otherwise, though I want to have I want to play rummy with my family, but if you remember that all the family members, Doris, Cyril and George, each day after coming back from work, they had their tea, they got ready, and they again went back outside to have fun. And so she was left all alone. So she says that she says hesitatingly that yes, I would like to have a game of rummy. So Mrs. Fitzgerald, she says okay, then that will do then. And then she moves to the uh, door which is left and then turns, but still she says, but remember, you need to keep firm, and if you don't keep firm, then obviously you've had it, then obviously nothing would happen. All right. And then she opens the door calling, hoy, you can come in. And then she opens the door and call all of them. And so she comes from the door and moves to the right slightly and says, but remember a firm hand. So though now she has called her Annie Pearson's family members, but still again and again she is reminding Mrs. Annie Pearson to stay firm. All right, otherwise whatever they have done throughout the play, it will all be wasted. Means whatever treatment they have got, it will all be wasted. And so George, Doris and Cyril, they come in through the doorway, and they look at Mrs. Pearson and Mrs. Fitzgerald. Then she says, okay, now I'm going, and I will let you people enjoy yourself. And so the family, they look very worriedly, anxiously at Mrs. Pearson, and Mrs. Pearson, she smiles, and now the family, they are much relieved, and they smile back at her. So Doris, she is still quite anxious, and she says, yes, mother. And Mrs. Pearson, she smiles and says that, okay, that now I see that you don't want to go out today, and so I'll tell you what I think we all should do. And so Mrs. Fitzgerald, again, she turns and she gives a final warning and says, remember. And Mrs. Pearson, she nods her head and again looks at her family sharply and says, I hope no objections, anyone? And so George, he says, no, obviously, whatever you say. And then Mrs. Pearson, she tells that, that she thinks that they all should have a game of rummy. And then she asks the children that, oh, it will be better if both of you get the supper ready today while I and your father have a talk. And so George, firmly he says, okay, suits me. It is all fine by me. And then he looks at the children, challengingly at the children, and he says, okay, yes, what about you two? Means whatever mother has said, it is fine by me. Now, what about you two? So Cyril, very hastily, quickly, he says, yes, that's all right, fine by me. But Doris, she is still hesitating, and she says, well, I. And Mrs. Pearson again sharply says, what? Speak up. And then Doris, now she hastily says, oh, I think it would be lovely. And so Mrs. Pearson, she smiles and says, goodbye, Mrs. Fitzgerald, and you come again soon. And Mrs. Fitzgerald, she says, yes, dear, night all, and have a nice time. And Mrs. Fitzgerald exits from the left of the stage, and the family, they all come and cluster around mother, and the curtain, it falls. Okay, so that was the chapter. I hope all of you have liked it. Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
And
Yes, ma'am.
have you understood it also? Any confusion, anyone?
No, ma'am.
Okay, that means it is clear to all of you. So you need to remember what is the basic plot of the play. All right. Yes, who will tell me the basic plot of the play? Yes, come on.
Ma'am, they interchange their souls to teach the lesson to the family.
What is why they do that? That
Ma'am,
is,
to teach a lesson to Mrs. Pearson's family.
see, when you're asked the main plot, so what is the main plot? The play talks about the portrayal of the status of woman in a family, all right, and how she is not appreciated by her family members, and how she is ordered around. All right, so that is the main thing, and around that the whole play, it moves. Okay, and so because her family, they do not appreciate her, and they are always ordering her, and so what happens that it has been a long time, and she is the only one who stays at home night after night, all the day she is working. And so what happens, she talks to her friend, and then they come up with this plan, because Mrs. Annie Pearson, like I told you, she's a very timid and nervous kind of lady. She's very naive, very simple, and also very fond of her family. And so she is not able to take a stern step with them. And so Mrs. Fitzgerald, she helps her, and they switch spirits. And now Mrs. Annie Pearson, with Mrs. Fitzgerald's spirit, now she's bold and dominating, and now she teaches the family a good lesson. And so one by one, they all come back from their work. First Doris, then Cyril, and later on her husband George, and all of them, get a taste of the same medicine. And so Mrs. Fitzgerald, now she teaches everyone a good lesson. Obviously, that means Mrs. Annie Pearson with Mrs. Fitzgerald's spirit. So all of them are taught a lesson, and at the end of the play, we see that yes, they have learned their lesson well, and they are ready to do what Mrs. Annie Pearson tells them to do. Okay, so that was the chapter. Now, take out your registers, all of you. Let's start with the question answers. Hurry up and tell me when you are ready. Ready? Have you got your registers?
Yes, ma'am. Mom, wait.
All of you are still so sleepy. Alright, the first question. This play, written in the 1950s, is a humorous and satirical description of the status of the mother in the family. What are the issues it raises? And the second part is that, do you think it caricatures these issues, or do you think that the problems it raises are genuine? And how does the play resolve the issues? Do you agree with the resolution? So that is the first question. Okay, write down. The main issue, the main issue that the play, the main issue that the play raises, the main issue that the play raises is that, is that the lady of the house, is that the lady of the house, lady of the house, comma, who is, lady of the house, comma, who is just like, who is just like an axis, AXIS, after house, comma, who is just like an axis, comma, is never, is never given, is never given her due respect, is never given her due respect, comma, is never given her due respect, comma, especially, especially if she is, especially if she is a simple housewife, especially if she is a simple housewife.
Excuse me, ma'am.
Yes, beta.
Ma'am, what we have to write after her due respect?
Comma, especially, after due respect, comma, especially if she is, if she is a simple housewife, especially if she is a simple housewife. Full stop. Continue. The family members, the family members take her, the family members take her for granted. The family members take her for granted. The family members take her for granted. Full stop. She works, she works like an, she works like an unpaid servant. She works like an unpaid servant. She works like an unpaid servant. Full stop. The second issue is that, after full stop, continue. The second issue is that the mistress of the house, the second issue is that the mistress of the house should assert, the mistress of the house should assert, ASSERT, should assert her position, should assert her position very firmly, should assert her position very firmly to the family members, should assert her position very firmly to the family members. Full stop. She should be ready. She should be ready. She should be ready to put across. She should be ready to put across her views, to put across her views with determination. She should be ready to put across her views with determination rather than surrender meekly, rather than surrender meekly, rather than surrender meekly. Full stop. I will repeat
Ma'am,
this
surrender.
paragraph. Yes, Prisha?
Ma'am, after surrender.
Surrender meekly. 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 Full stop. Okay, I will repeat this paragraph. The main issue that the play raises is that the lady of the house, who is just like an axis, is never given her due respect, especially if she is a simple housewife. Full stop. The family members take her for granted. Full stop. She works like an unpaid servant. Full stop. The second issue is that the mistress of the house should assert her position very firmly to the family members. Full stop. She should be ready to put across her views with determination rather than surrender meekly. Now that was the answer to the first part of the question. Now change the paragraph and continue. This is the answer to the second part of the question. The issue raised, the issues raised, the issues raised.
Ma'am, second paragraph.
Yes, change the paragraph. The issues raised in the play, the issues raised in the play are genuine. The issues raised in the play are genuine. GENUINE. even though even though they have been treated even though they have been treated with satire and humor, even though they have been treated with satire and humor. Full stop. The problem that we come across, the problem that we come across in our life, in our lives, the problem that we come across in our lives has been depicted, the problem that we come across in our lives has been depicted in the chapter has been depicted in the chapter very sensitively, very sensitively. Full stop. Continue. The lady of the house, the lady of the house should be, the lady of the house should be the mistress of the house, the lady of the house should be the mistress of the house, and she should and she should make sure and she should make sure and she should make sure that all the family members make sure that all the family members give her that all the family members give her respect and recognition, give her respect and recognition that she deserves. The lady of the house should be the mistress of the house, and she should make sure that all the family members give her respect and recognition that she deserves. Full stop. The issue is the issue is convincingly the issue is convincingly resolved in the play. The issue is convincingly resolved in the play. Full stop. The transformation the transformation of the personalities, the transformation of the personalities is symbolic. The transformation of the personalities is symbolic. Full stop. The author has portrayed, the author has portrayed, P-O-R-T-R-A-Y-E-D, P-O-R-T-R-A-Y-E-D. The author has portrayed the fact, the author has portrayed the fact that sometimes, portrayed the fact that sometimes,
Excuse me, ma'am.
yes beta,
Ma'am, what is the meaning of portrait?
showed here, depicted. Alright?
Okay, ma'am.
Okay. The author has portrayed the fact that sometimes one has that sometimes one has to put one's foot down. O-N-E apostrophe S. The fact that sometimes one has to put one's O-N-E apostrophe S one's foot down. Full stop. Okay, so this completes this particular answer, and when we meet again, then we'll continue